You're hot.
Oh, so I'm calling you in for a team meeting this week.
With RT?
No, with me.
Okay.
Not with us.
I thought
You're going to hear from the boss.
Got it. Hey, everybody. Happy
Jesus
Friday.
Christ.
Welcome back to the CONVO Couch, everyone. Pastor Jardula here. It's Friday, payday, fam.
You're breaking my eardrums, fam. Literally. Breaking my eardrums. I don't know. Oz, can you lower him? Because it literally...
I just lowered me. There's such a delay.
Hi, guys. How are you?
There's a big delay. No? Okay. All right. Fam, it is Friday. It is payday. It is fun day, not Sunday. But yes, it's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. Thank everybody for joining us today. We got a nice little group coming on in early on the YouTubes. Do us a favor. Hello, Jilly Love, Anthony and Cadillac Centaur, and everybody else, Scott Leone and Hugo, who was there this morning. We appreciate it, Hugo. The trumpets, hitting them hard. Guys, do us a favor. Go over to Rokfin. Get a subscription over there if you can. $9.99 a month. Help us out. Thank you to all. I believe, fam, I haven't checked it. I think it came up. We had a very nice contribution over on one of our mechanisms, our way of supporting independent media. And I just got to say to everybody out there who's been constantly doing this for us, thank you so much. You've been keeping us in play. Even though I think it's uber important that we support our independent journalists out there. It's like when Maj Toure came on the morning show, he says, we got to pay a few bucks for somebody to go to some spot where the mainstream media won't go and they don't want. You guys have been doing that for us. We are going to get this thing kicking again. We are going to go to Brazil. We are going to be covering these elections left and right. And I can't thank you enough. I know I'm not going to speak for Fiorella. I know she's very humbled and thankful too, but I'll let her say it. Thank you so much to all of you with the Patreons, the support, the give, send, go. God, guys, you're awesome. And our subscriptions are people on Rokfin who subscribe to make this dream become a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I'm not as dramatic as Pasta, but I do appreciate it. And, you know, it's always great for you to help us out when we want to do the stuff, because just plane tickets to get out of Russia are insane. It's just insanity right now with the way they're doing it, because basically there's only one airline that can get you there in less than 3 or 4 days, basically, because that's Turkish Airlines is the only one that is like fast. If you want to go through any other airline, I think it's very complicated because not all of them take the Russian cards, and then also they take forever. Like you have to be in like Dubai for like 3 days, and then like it's just really complicated, especially when we have a set limited time. So it really does help us out, and we really appreciate it.
Well, fam, the next move will be Moscow to Cuba, and in Cuba, you can take a boat to Florida.
Fam, there are so many things that are wrong with that statement, so I'm just going to leave the second part of that statement alone.
Well, you know what I mean. You're right there. There's no flights from Cuba to the United States.
Only Pasta would literally...
No, Steve would make that same mistake too. So.
Well, only the two libertarian-esque white men would make a statement like that. Te vas en balsa, Fiorella. Te vas en balsa de Cuba a Miami. Yeah, okay.
Is there flights from Cuba to Miami? No.
No, but...
It doesn't exist, fam.
Well, there's flights to Cuba. I think that...
Yeah, but all right, so you're going to go Moscow to Cuba, Cuba to somewhere in Central America, and then Central America back home to Florida.
Fam, I don't know why we're discussing this right now, but I do want to go to Cuba. And
You're the one who brought up the flights. That's why. That is why we're talking about it. You brought up Turkish Airlines, okay?
Okay. Anyway, guys, Cuba's going to start accepting Russian cards. So is Venezuela. So those are the two places where the Russians are like, yes,
Well, there's a Miami to Managua flight, so right. I mean, there's a Fort Lauderdale to Managua. So
right,
maybe you can go from Cuba to Managua and from Managua to Florida and then hang out with peeps every day of the week while you're there in Cuba and Managua.
Fam, we can discuss that another time.
Why? It's Friday. Casual
it's
Friday.
It's early for you. It's
I got
late
the vegan
for me,
shirt on.
And I have to work in like a little bit. So if we don't get the shit done,
Bam, hold on.
I'm leaving.
I'm calling the ambulance. Hello?
Oh, I'm sorry. I had to work a lot last night. Working the night shift.
Well, I just know I have a tough weekend tomorrow. I have the beach during the day, and then in the afternoon, I have a vegan potluck with Tim Canova. And then,
right now.
Tomorrow night, we're going to the iPick for free because my friend manages it, and I'm going to have hummus and IPAs. So I have a hard day in front of me tomorrow, right? I got to make beautiful vegan caprese and have this beautiful fam. I have a new salad. It's watermelon, avocado, and cucumber with a tahini Dijon maple syrup dressing that will blow your balls off, sprinkled with fresh mint and sea salt. It is bomb.
All right, are you done?
Oh, I'm just getting warmed up.
Guys,
see what she has to put through up.
I'm gonna drop out of the stream right now. I'm gonna get out.
No, fam. I'm sorry. I don't want to disappoint the people. Leonard Trust Fund is here. All those cool people on YouTube. Let's get started. Let's go back to our normal stuff. Let's bag on Nancy Pelosi. Go ahead, fam.
It's not that hard, guys. So remember this video. This is a year over. It's a little less than a year old, this video. But people have been bringing it up because she is, of course, supposed to take a trip to Taiwan, to Taipei, to protect, American interests, we know, but to mostly stoke the tensions with China. China has said this is a red line multiple times. And there have been a couple of things that have happened since. Biden is insisting on sending an entire delegation to Taiwan. Every single warmonger, Democrat, Republican, is urging Pelosi to go. And we're seeing this continue with China saying, don't do that. Do not come. Do not come. And Oz is going to cowboy this video. But I wanted to bring up the original video, which is on C-SPAN. And if you guys go to my Twitter, I put the link there because a lot of people were saying that the video that has like 2 million something views on Twitter is false and that it's a fake video. I want to share the video if it was false because Republicans do have a tendency a lot of the time when they post certain videos of the Democrats or of Biden, sometimes they like clip them out and stuff. So I double checked that the video was accurate. The video is real. The only thing they added was the background music, which is like this creepy TikTok background music. And that is added for effect. And also the audio is really bad on the Twitter one. And I know Pasta and Steve showed the Twitter one this morning. So I wanted to show the original version so you guys could see, because you can hear more of what she says. Now, if you watch the whole thing, I don't know if you guys recall this. This was during the time when they were talking about Bernie and Manchin and Build Back Better. And they were going back and forth as to, oh, we want to include this. And the Republicans were like, no, we're not going to include that. And Bernie was like, no, you need to include that. This is during that time when they were bullshitting everybody, right? And putting in all this bullshit into this bill and going back and forth and blaming Manchin and blaming what's the other moron and just going back and forth and doing this. And yeah, cinema. And so she was just like going over this, right? And this video became famous because she didn't make any sense as to what she was saying. So we're just going to refresh everyone's memory and just picture Nancy Pelosi having a conversation with Xi Jinping after you hear this.
We're sending stuff over to the Senate. Well, most of the product that we've done is set now. We may have added in the last day or so, and some of what we added is Senate to the bill, like a hearing. Bernie doesn't like hearing. excuse me, Bernie loves hearing mentioned, doesn't want hearing in the bill and all that stuff. So some is Senate oriented, and then we had the family medical leave. We figured if they're putting things in, then we can put something in, even if Manchin doesn't like it. So, so we are getting some bird and privilege. I think mostly we're getting privilege scrub, because privilege scrub is deadly to a bill. Birdable is important. It's you have to take it out, but privilege violation can take you out. So we're again getting that as we go along as well. But when we pass a bill, then they will see it in its aggregate and make some.
Any concerns that any of this is quote messaging, because that they have to take some of those things out regardless, no matter what you send over? You said you weren't going to send a messaging bill.
No, we're not sending a messaging bill, but we want to be sure that what we send is not birdable or bird bath or privilege scrub. They're the two exercises we're getting engaged, bathing exercises we're engaged in, and we're getting good responses. There's no bad answer. You know, it is what it is. You know, there's a certain objectivity to it. It is what it is, because whatever it is, this is the greatest monumental, historic piece of legislation that any of us will ever be a part of it. And I say that with great proprietary ownership of the Affordable Care.
Okay. So
It was a little bit better, I guess, than the one with the music.
Oh, you could just hear it more. That's it. Everything, they didn't alter anything of what she said. It was the same thing.
Just music.
So she's
right?
talking. She's just the music. So she's just talking using legislative terms, but regardless of those terms, she is not making any sense in general for like an average person, right? That even if you know what she's talking about, when she's talking about the reconciliation bill and the process of that and that whole thing, like there's a bird rule. But I don't know why they have these terms that make zero sense to the average person. I mean, I guess I do. So nobody understands what the fuck they're talking about.
Exactly.
But
I mean, part of the whole thing is, fam, is that they got to make sure that people stay confused on the situation. That's why they named the bills, very flowery, colorful names to these bills. The Let's Save the Children Act, or the Build Back. All the titles of the bills are misleading, and that's what she's doing here, is that she's making sure that people stay confused. It's just like the beginning of what was the movie, the Big Rig, or the one we watched about the the one about the bubble in 2008.
The thing.
No, what was the one?
Oh, okay.
We wanted to do videos from it, or
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You wanted to do the bathtub video? The Thing, right?
Yes.
We all know that movie.
Maybe I'll do it for
okay.
Rokfin only.
Maybe Russian only. And she says that F off when she wants you to get out of the bathtub. But
The Big Short.
The Big Short. One of the things they explain in The Big Short is that they have all these people in all these positions within finance that act like they're the ones who can only understand the jargon, right? Like these are the ones that can understand the language, and they keep it confusing and sophisticated on purpose so that you think that you need them. And that's what Nancy's doing here. She's really just, gaslighting, acting like, well, it has this, it has that, whatnot and stuff. You know what I'm saying? These people are fighting for evil. We're fighting for good for you. And this is what we have to go through. So just trust us. And if we don't succeed on what we said we would succeed, it's because they stopped us. It's not our fault.
Yeah, I mean, no average American's gonna watch that and be like, yeah, I totally get what she's saying.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just not. And that's not the point. The point isn't for you to understand what the hell they're talking about. The point is for you to just trust that they're doing their job, which, I mean, I'm gonna pull a Steve here and be like, this woman is not sober. Or something.
You do not know that. You don't have proof of her cocktailage.
Fam, her words are not indicating that she's all at least there. So that's what I'm going to say.
Fam, this is ageism. She can have a condition.
Fam, I'm sorry you relate to Nancy Pelosi, but I still stand by my statement that there's something off.
I think you're womanizing her.
What? Womanizing? That's
you're
not
womanizing
the right
her.
term.
Did she use the proper terms there? Do I have to? She talked about bird dogging.
Bird bath.
Whatever. There's no bird in the bill.
So, okay, so now that you've seen that video, Nancy Pelosi is supposed to go to Taiwan and have conversations and really talk politics with these people, right? Neither Nancy Pelosi or Joe Biden should be anywhere talking to anybody at this point. So we're going to show this other video with, this is about Biden and Xi Jinping having a phone call. The phone call lasted 2 hours and 17 minutes. And in this phone call, Xi told Biden, do not play with fire. But this isn't the phone call.
The Chinese side made clear its position.
Hold on. And so basically, after that situation happened, this is what they said. This is they're reiterating that this is what was discussed.
The Chinese side made clear its position on the Taiwan question, and the two sides agreed to keep the communication line open. But if Speaker Pelosi visited Taiwan, does China believe that the atmosphere or the environment for the two leaders to keep the talk going no longer exists?
刚才你的这个问题问得很好。
That's a very good question. In a phone call, Chinese and U.S. presidents had a candid and in-depth communication and exchange on China-U.S. relations and issues of interest. The Chinese side has repeatedly made clear to the U.S. side our serious concern over Speaker Pelosi's potential visit to Taiwan and our firm opposition to the visit. If the U.S. side challenges our red line, it will be confronted with countermeasures. All possible consequences that may arise from this will be borne by the U.S. side.
Okay.
Was that one of those
They said it again.
computer-generated voices, fam?
I don't know. It sounded like it. But that's, again, this is a different video than I think the other one I put up, I think. Because this is a different person asking a different question. And they keep reiterating this, right? And this is after, of course, a 2-hour conversation. Now, in spite of them reiterating this, you have both Democrats and Republicans, right? Pushing Pelosi. They're uniting with Pelosi on this. This is Senator Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee, I believe. She's a Republican. She said, if Pelosi does not go to Taiwan, communist China is winning. So again, the communist China, the hard-on that Republicans have for China.
Fam, that's a dirty word, but it's the correct word.
And it's the same hard-on that the Democrats have for Russia. I mean, it is just, and together, there's just
this giant hard-on.
Hard-on for war. They do, and they're so thirsty for war. And I'm not apologizing for using the sexual reference, but I think maybe people will understand that better. And it's just
Congress
really
is filled with a bunch of hard-ons. That's what something we used. Fam, that was a team word we used to use back here, was hard-on. Yeah, hard-on. So.
The teen word?
Team, T-E-A-M. My crew over here in Florida, we called ourselves a team. Like we referred to us as, that's team guidelines, that's team rhetoric, that's a team word. So my team over here, right, we used to use the word hard on. And yes, you are right. And I'm glad you brought up Marsha Blackburn's tweet over there, because there is nothing but a hard on for a war. And I've said this before, and I'm amping up this conversation right now. I'm amping up this rhetoric right now, is that I do not trust the conservatives, nor the party, nor the voters when it comes to being anti-war, because I feel a lot of times They just think we're at wrong with the wrong enemy.
Right.
And that will switch immediately when they get into power. And then if you have Democrats already having a hard-on for war with China, now you've just thrown fuel on the fire.
Yeah, and there were a lot of conservatives also supporting the war with Russia via Ukraine. There's a lot of them supporting NATO.
We showed two of them in the last show.
Mm-hmm. But what's the difference? I mean, Pasta did a whole section on this, right? Is there a difference? There's not a difference. They're the same shit. They're a one-party system. And I should have put up the clip Castrochan News put up of Raul Castro, where he was talking about, I met it with Americans and they said, well, in America, we have two-party systems. You guys have a one-party system. And he's like, no, you have a one-party system. That's like me saying that Fidel and I represent each two different parties. And he was just like laughing because it's like, no, it's bullshit. Everybody knows that the United States has a two-party system. In fact, I think it was the ex-president of was it Nigeria? I can't exactly remember which country it was, but he said that the United States is it's a one-party system, but in its like in perfect American extravagance, it has two. So it's the reality, guys, and I think more people are seeing that. So this is what Z said. Okay, this is what he was quoted saying to Biden via last November. He said, "Those who play with fire will eventually get burned." He was quoted as telling Biden, repeating language he employed when they spoke last November. He told him this again. "I hope that the U.S. side fully understands that tensions around Taiwan are steadily escalating amid fears Z could ultimately order an invasion to impose Beijing's rule." In the last flashpoint, Chinese authorities are furious at unconfirmed plans by Biden, ally and Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, to visit the island. So they're not happy. They're telling Nancy not to go. And this is from Amp France 24, by the way. And a lot of the retorts, and I talked about this earlier in RT with a really great guest. It was, okay, but officials visit Taiwan all the time. Why is this such a big deal, right? Congress is like, this happens all the time. Why is China acting like this? They're giving us this rhetoric. Evil Geppetto was saying, we're going to do what we want to do. We're going to go when we want to go. Excuse Xi Jinping, whatever. But the problem is this is a major provocation because she's second in line to the U.S. presidency, right? You got Kamala Harris, God forbid, and then Nancy Pelosi. So, I mean, those are great choices. You got Biden, Kamala, and Pelosi. I mean, do we live in hell or do we not live in hell? I don't know. And so given her position, she may travel with military transport. She probably is traveling with military transport if she does go. So, of course, they have said Washington will bear the consequences of the trip. And during the call that Biden had with Z, he was quoted as saying the position of the Chinese government and people on the Taiwan issue is consistent. It is the firm will of over 1.4 billion Chinese people to firmly safeguard China's national sovereignty and territorial integrity. In response, Biden told Z that the U.S. policy is known as strategic ambiguity was unchanged and essentially favoring the status quo in Taiwan, with Washington supposedly recognizing Chinese sovereignty, but opposing any enforcement allowing the Taiwanese to retain their distinct rule. So once again, Washington is using the excuse that Taiwan is an independent group of people, that if they want, they're pushing this whole thing. They haven't full on said it because they haven't. Washington does not recognize Taiwan as independent from China. They don't yet. But are they trying to get to that point where they're pushing it? Yes. And that's what's happening. And remember, that happened with Ukraine. That happened with Taiwan. And obviously, Ukraine is its own country. But in terms of what the using like the Donbass and Crimea and saying, oh, these countries want to be independent from Russia and all of that, they're using the same type of playbook to say this as well about Taiwan.
Okay.
So that's that.
Yeah, let's break this
Go
down.
ahead.
Let's talk about this because I there's a lot. I have a lot of notes here. I have 4 major notes too that I put down that I want to talk about. Is number one is if you ask somebody, why should Nancy Pelosi go to Taiwan? Can you lie, fam, and try to come up with a fake answer that would be something I could swallow or understand? Because like you said, on paper, America recognizes the China One policy, the One China policy, where Taiwan, Hong Kong are part of that. However, there were stipulations to that whole situation, being that as long as America can do business with them, then it's cool. Then you could be one policy on paper, but at the end of the day, they have their own sovereignty and stuff. Mom, what are you doing? My mother's here. Can I have that coffee? That's awesome. Mom, come say hi to everybody. Would you?
Oh, again with
Mom, say hi. Fiorella's here.
Hi, Fiorella.
My mom was really crawling
Hi.
in here.
I didn't want to interrupt.
She was crawling in here army style on the ground to give me a note because she didn't want to interrupt the convo couch. Can you believe this, ladies and gentlemen? Give me a kiss.
China is going to shoot down Pelosi's jet if she attempts to go to Taiwan, which will start a war. It just came off,
Yeah.
hot off the press.
Do you think she should go to Taiwan?
She's right.
Yes,
Why?
because I want them to shoot down her jet.
Mom, don't get me coffee.
Don't ask.
Okay, somebody clip that up, please. Oh wait, maybe
Mom,
not. I don't know.
Mom, here I was
Maybe
ready.
that's not a
I was
good
going to
idea.
be so proud of my
You can
mom.
put it
I'm
on
going to say my
Rumble.
mom. She was going to say, no, she shouldn't go. What business does she have going? Keep your nose out of their business. And my mom, she's not crazy about China, right? She's not crazy about what they're doing. Obviously, you know, my mother is a patriot, Trump fan and whatnot. But she even said, why? What's the sense? If you could lie to me, fam, why does Nancy Pelosi need to go to Taiwan? Give me your best bullshit.
That would be it, fam.
What's that? You don't have anything, or
So she can disappear.
that we're gonna go with that one.
That's the only reason.
The reason why she is going is because the empire is trying to assert their hegemony on everybody, right? Like they're the boss. This is a unipolar world.
Yeah.
We'll go where we want to go. We'll do business with Taiwan. Then people have to understand 10 years ago, we gave Taiwan, I think it was over 10 years ago, Patriot missiles to defend their island. And the Chinese were not happy about it when we were doing it. However, it did go through. They were going to test them. China was like, don't you dare test them. There's always been this jockeying back and forth. So we sold them weaponry back in the day, just like we did to Ukraine situation right now. What I want to point out more than anything is that, well, why is China acting this way now? Why are they saying don't even come here or else, where they never did this before? Is because a shit line has been crossed. One of the stories I think that was buried so much that's not talked about was the biolabs in the Ukraine. Even when I came to you, fam, and I said, fam, let's not talk about it yet because I still think there's more to see. But when it came out, we saw across the board at least a dozen biolabs inside the Ukraine, funded by the Pentagon, in which Victoria Nudelman said, oh, they're research facilities until the Russians get in there, then they're biolabs because then they'll use them in the wrong way. That's the way they're duping the public. There is a shit line that has been crossed. Everything with the Ukraine has happened. China's a different position than themselves, and they're not going to deal with it anymore. I suspect, because of a lot of the information I've seen, and once again, I can't verify this, that there are also biolabs that are operating in Taiwan. So that's another reason why China's like, listen, we've sewed up shit in Hong Kong. We got it under control. We kicked the NGOs out. We got rid of all the troublemakers now. Beijing controls Hong Kong. Deal with it. Taiwan has always been the next peg for them to go over and take over too as well. But there's something that is not being talked about enough. Steve brought my attention to it a couple months ago, and they just voted it in the House. I talked about it briefly. We'll talk about it more on Monday. The CHIPS Act. 2/3 of the world's semiconductors come from Taiwan. We will fall really far behind. That's why they rushed through this bill with $252 billion, grossly handed out, fam, no oversight. Even Bernie Sanders, which I wasn't going to bring his video because I'm done with his virtue signaling. Even he was talking out against it and stuff. Every Democratic voted for it to hand over money to companies like Lockheed Martin and all these other ones to try to get up to par with our semiconductors, because supposedly these semiconductor plants, they take about 8 to 10 years. It's like a vaccine. They take about 8 to 10 years to get working. So we are going to fall behind when it comes to semiconductors. And that's what's also not being talked about, because we are fearful that if China takes over Taiwan, there goes our semiconductor production, and we'll be shit out of luck. And that's something they're not talking to the public about that is in Taiwan. So I just wanted to bring that to the table, because it's a different China, just like it's a different Russia, fam. You know, as soon as the Biden
and the U.S.
got in there, forget about it. Sorry, go ahead.
No. And the U.S. can't afford to cross 2 red lines. They crossed Russia's red line, and they're trying to cross China's red line. So can the U.S. really afford to do this? No, they really can't. And so what would it look like for the United States? That's another question that has been put out there, right? On asking a lot of the people that are hyper focused on China, that really that analyze the situation, is how would it look? How would the U.S. look if Pelosi and the United States say, okay, we're not going to go to Taiwan? How would the U.S. look after that? You know, they'd look really weak.
That's a conservative point, right? I mean, that's the conservative talking point again. Oh, no, you got to go. You can't show weakness. Pompeo saying, hey, Nance, I'll ride with you.
But they would. But they would in terms of like after puffing their chest so much, but it would be the right thing to do. You know what I mean? It would be the right thing to do, to not go, to respect what China is saying, because the United States, I think, thinks China's bluffing. They're arrogant. They think they're bluffing. They're not. I don't know how else to say it. They're not bluffing. Just like Russia wasn't bluffing, China's not bluffing.
They're not going to shoot down the plane. They're going to ground the plane.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
if that plane goes up, they'll ground it. It won't even make it to Taiwan, and it'll be diverted and sent back and told, if you try to go, we'll blow you up or something like that. You know what I'm saying? But what should be done, if we were a nation of diplomacy for real, somebody would get on the horn and go, listen, I'm going to cancel Nancy's trip, but I want you to accept a trip from a different delegation of people who aren't such hardliners and let them come. So then you can save face. You pick up the phone and say, hey, we're going to send Rand Paul and Elizabeth Warren, or whatever the case may be. Probably not Elizabeth, but we're going to send a couple other people, not Nancy Pelosi, but we think it's important that we still have this dialogue open and save face. And that's something that could be done, but it will never be done, because our country has this mentality, it's a unipolar kind of world where you do what we say or else. Well, guess what? You're not holding the cards anymore. You don't have the resources. You don't have the people. And you're dealing with 2 nuclear nations that have an adequate military and naval vessels out there in their part of the world.
Yeah, and a huge part of the world that the West completely doesn't consider the world, but it exists. Billions and billions of people exist in the East. And I'm in the beginning of the East. I'm in Eurasia. Everything else that exists to the East there's so much more. And the Western world just does not consider it relevant. Well, that's changing, and it's going to continue changing. So.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. My mom is hoping that Nancy goes. So
she's just saying what everybody else is thinking. That's all I'm going to say about that.
That was too hysterical. We got to cut that out and clip that up and put that up there.
Yeah.
My mom, she came crawling in here army style just to give me a thing, because she thought it would be so helpful to the show. It says, like, possible that China will fire on jet of Pelosi at the trip to Taiwan. This could start a war. China issues new threat ahead of Pelosi's Asia trip. She was crawling in here army style on the ground.
I mean, she's not wrong. So speaking of warmongers, fam, let's just go to section 2, and then we'll do Super 8s after that. This section, we only have 3 sections today. But this one, I was fuming at 2 a.m. last night, seeing this, right, from our Nicaraguan comrades saying, look what happened. Then Rubenstein was like, oh, this guy just got removed by Nicaragua. He was going to be the ambassador to the U.S. ambassador to Nicaragua. along those lines, and he was going up on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee to be asked questions by Rubio, by Tim Kaine, by who else? It was
Bob Menendez.
Bob Menendez, yeah,
Yeah.
those. And he basically was advocating for regime change in Nicaragua. And we have some of the videos, but it's disgusting, guys. It's disgusting what was said and it's just really bad. So
yeah, let me just add a little caveat what's going on here. The way I clip these up. Fam hit me up right away. She had the document. We had talked to our friends in Nicaragua and see what was going on. I immediately went and looked for the videos. Rubio had him up on his YouTube because obviously, fam, he's going to boast and brag about his mentality. And this is something we're dealing with here in Florida. Before the show, I was downstairs and I had to talk to somebody. I had a long talk about DeSantis and explain some of the reasons of why I'm particularly against them. This is something we saw at Freedom Fest. There is a push, and this is even in Rand Paul's book, The Case Against Socialism, right? There is a push that we are allowed to intervene in different regimes if they are a regime that we don't agree with, whether it's a communist or a socialist entity. And people like Marco Rubio, Bob Menendez, Ron DeSantis have this rhetoric open and out there because they have a lot of people convinced that it's a communist regime that we have the right, we can manufacture consent to get ourselves involved with. I'm not going to be an advocate for communism or socialism or capitalism ever. I won't do that. I've said this before. I'm a little bit more about a mixed system, but at the end of the day, my libertarian side of we shouldn't intervene is what shines more than anything. We have been down to the global south. The number one thing that these people want in the global south more than anything isn't socialism, isn't nationalism, isn't communism, isn't free trade, isn't bigger schools and whatnot. They want national sovereignty. They want the right to choose their government and pick their path forward. And that is something that we all should recognize, even conservatives, right? There's 80 bases in Latin America, ladies and gentlemen. There's a reason why the people migrate here. If we would just for once get our nose out of people's business and not stand behind the Monroe Doctrine, like when we start to play this clip, because I put it off in two sections, fam, of Rubio's opening statement, because it just really set the tone and the mentality and the rhetoric of the conservative Republican Party when it comes to Latin America. Nobody's drawing the parallels together and connecting the dots, seeing that the fact that we have so much migration because of our intervention. And if we would pull back on our intervention, we would have less migration.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a conservative, I want to leave these countries alone. If you want to stop people from coming to the United States, stop interfering in their sovereign process. Stop trying to fix them. It's not your job. It's not. Nobody wants you to. Let them be, okay? And then you will have less people coming into the country. If that's the way you want to look at it, you want to stop these immigrants from coming into the United States. Well, then leave them the hell alone. Stop literally destroying their country so they have to come into other countries, because that's essentially what happens for all over the world, not just in Latin America, but in the Middle East, as we've seen, in Africa, as we've seen in Haiti, as we've seen. I mean, I could just go on and on and on about this. And that's why this is, but also I want to add that this whole thing is set up to make sure that you understand that China is the biggest threat we have, and that China is worse than communist Russia, the USSR, right? They still refer to the USSR, the Soviet Union. They still act like that's still a thing, even though Russia has long not been a communist country. And so they're still using that same rhetoric, but now it's like communist China and, you know, Putin's regime, Nazi regime, and all of this crap. So again, just this whole thing is used to say, oh, well, we need to make sure we get in there and we stop Nicaragua and all of these countries that they mentioned. I think they mentioned Uruguay and a few other countries from
Salvador was a part of
cooperating
this whole
with
thing.
China.
Yeah. Salvador was a whole part of this.
Yeah.
El Salvador was all part of this because there was once again, they would try to get an ambassador there. And once again, and I've said this before, sometimes I get a lot of criticism for not so much liking, but respecting what a person like Bukele would do. And that's telling the IMF to go scratch. Now they're looking at him, unless it's just theater, they're looking at him and they're very pissed off of what he's doing there too as well. And the hypocrisy is something I want you to pay attention to, ladies and gentlemen. Everything that Rubio says, we have it in two different clips, same speech, we cut it in two. We'll stop and we'll talk about it between each one. But the hypocrisy, this mentality, fam, that they're trying to stop China and communism and authoritarianism is bullshit. It's what they're really trying to do is prop off the fact that they want this territory, Monroe Doctrine style, so the corporations that put these people in Congress, like Rubio, can steal their resources, get cheap labor, and also make sure that we thrust our banking system on these countries. That is what it is about. It is not about authoritarianism and stopping communism and everything else. If a country wants to go with a certain system, they have every right to. So let's listen to Marco Rubio, ladies and gentlemen. The second part makes you just want to get nauseous when he starts talking about, oh my God, could you imagine if China had a base in this hemisphere? I'm like, homeboy, we got 1,000 bases around the world. Shut the front door. Here's Marco Rubio with his opening statement to the ambassador approval process and the Senate for Foreign Relations Committee.
Thank you for scheduling this hearing, and you've been a great partner to work with on this, and I appreciate it and look forward to working with you on this. Again, I want to congratulate each of you for your willingness to serve. Thank you for your willingness to serve and congratulate you on your appointments and your nominations. And I guess I don't really have an opening statement. I do have sort of a mini rant to open, and it's not about any of you individually. It has more to do with our region. When I hear people talk about like we need to care more about the Western Hemisphere, it's reminiscent of, like they say, you also need to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables. It's a good thing for you, it's good for your health, and you should really do it, but most of us never get around to it. Well, speaking for myself anyway, I know I need to. So the point being is this is not just a nice thing to do, it's critical to our national security and our national economic interests. Geography matters. It matters for a lot of different reasons, but it matters because proximity matters. And because we see it firsthand. There's look at the migrant crisis that we face on the border today. Those are all people coming from places where life is not good. And at the cornerstone of why life is not good in those countries, the violence, the economic deprivations, whatever it may be, is poor governance and bad decisions made over a sustained period of time. So that alone is a national interest. But then not to mention we do have near-peer adversaries. We didn't 25 years ago. The United States lived in a unipolar world where we were the only show in town. Now there are at least one unprecedented near-peer adversary. The Chinese Communist Party is a challenge to the United States, greater even than what the Soviet Union was, because they are a commercial rival, a technological rival, a geopolitical rival, a diplomatic rival, and a commercial one. And in addition to all of that, they are also a military threat to the country as they continue to develop. And they have an interest in the region. They want to extract minerals and have mineral rights, certainly, but they also want leverage. They want control over countries so that they'll vote with them in international fora, and ultimately so they could potentially position themselves either on a rotational basis or permanently all over the world militarily and the like. In essence, they would love nothing more than to encircle the United States and to have put themselves in a position in each of the countries, for example, that all of you have been nominated to serve in, but more broadly in the region, they want to be in a position one day to, no matter who gets elected in those countries, do whatever they want because that country owes them too much money and they own too many things in that country to break away from it. And so that's...
Okay, fam, there is so much shit to unpack there. This guy is one of the worst, Marco Rubio. He is the biggest full of shit person I've ever seen. I like to see these guys in a debate. One of the things that I love about the person who confronted Ted Cruz about his policies towards Venezuela is that he confronted him saying, like, well, why do you think we should do this? And Cruz couldn't even answer the questions. He was trying to fight his way out of a paper bag, a wet paper bag that he couldn't even get out of and stuff. But Rubio is the same person. He'll just tell these falsehood, these lies that a small group of people believe in and expand upon that. The way he starts off that, guys, the way he manufactured consent, we need to get involved, fam. Getting involved with these countries is like eating fresh fruit. It's a given. You should do it. It's healthier for you. Why don't you eat the fruit? We need to be involved. When people say we need to be involved, that's already a given. You have anything to say about that, about point number one? Because that is just like, are you frigging kidding me? And people really believe this crap.
Yeah, and then he blames the countries.
Well, that was the
he
second
says
part.
Poor management. Yeah.
Right? These places are not good. They're mismanaged. You know what I'm saying? Thank you, Mom. These places are not good. The people are coming here because, you know, they've been mismanaged and whatnot.
Yeah.
We didn't leave the right management there. And what, it's got nothing to do with the intervention. It's got nothing to do with us, you know, picking their governments whatsoever. It's all about that. Then he goes to the CCP, right? Now it's all about, oh, God, we got to stop the CCP. And everything he was talking about, what they wanted is something that we have had. We want to extract those minerals, right? He's totally projecting. We want to extract those minerals. We have all the corporations in the global south that already take all the resources and extract the minerals. We got all the receipts, right? And then at the end of the day, fam, the thing that really blew my mind is they want to put somebody in charge who will do what they say. That seems like very, I know a country that's trying to put people in charge of the global south so they'll do what we say, right? Weren't we just in Honduras where they put Juan Orlando Hernandez in charge because he did whatever they wanted to? They just handed over all the corporations to him. It's just like Bolsonaro in Brazil. He did what they wanted them to do.
in Venezuela.
Juan Guaido, if they got him in.
If they got him in. I mean, that's the thing. Like they take whatever their enemy is doing or what they're doing and blame it on their enemy, which is classic projection. But one of the things that really stuck out to me was him admitting, again, this is just another idiot, another asset, right, of the empire, admitting that the United States used to call the shots, that the United States used to be the boss, used to live in he uses the word unipolar or unipolarity 20 years ago, he says, but now things have changed. Of course, so he's admitting that the United States, and he's yearning and lamenting that it's no longer like that anymore. So yeah, see, they know that there's a shift happening, that this, you know, unipolar world in terms of the United States being the only dictating big type of government is no longer the case. So he's yearning for the days when that used to be the case, and basically saying we need to go back to that. And now we have this bigger enemy that's bigger than the Soviet Union. Now we have communist China, and communist China is going to come in and do all this to these people. So he's essentially trying to say, oh, it's communist China and we don't like them because they're communists. But it's more of the fact that they don't like China because of the economics, because China is growing economically and gaining power politically on the global strategic political stage. And they don't want that. And so he's using this rhetoric to say, if we don't stop China, then they're just going to do this to these poor countries, things that we all know very well that the United States has done. And again, you don't have to love China to know a few facts about China, that they don't have military bases all over these countries, and that the relationship with these countries in a lot of ways, I'm not going to say all of them, but at the very least in the ones I know, in Bolivia with Nicaragua, those relationships are more of on an equitable basis, at least in certain terms, where the people feel like they're getting something out of China. And in terms of transportation and such, the infrastructure, and people really see that. I mean, I think our comrades that live in Bolivia could talk a lot about that, about how that's helped them out a lot too. Regardless of how you feel about China, that's why so many people cooperate with China, so many nations. Should they get to a point where they don't have to? Yeah, of course. But they have the sovereign right to have a relationship with whoever they want. Just like you have the sovereign right to have a relationship with whoever you want. Like, what is, you know, the United States needs to stop being everybody's daddy.
Well, the two things that come to my mind is, number one, I want to be able to counteract the way he's trying to sell this. Mr. Rubio, Mr. Cruz's, Menendez, when we get to him, the Tim Kaines, how does he continue to sell it? You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times as he gets deep into this, you know, and obviously they're just going to use little cuts, little clips of certain things that are really attention grabbing. But if you listen to all these things, and if you listen to the whole speech, the thing that really kind of gets my mind is I don't know where or who would kind of stand back the fact that we need to move towards a unipolar kind of world, that is okay, that it's good, that it's justified that we should be the world's police. It's justified that we're fighting for democracy and freedom. It's justified we go into these countries to stop them from communism or socialism. It's justified. I want to know that. But I also want to know, too, as well, how we push back against his manufacturing for consent and his justifications for empire. What can we do? What can we do as a United States citizen? What can we push for? Because to me, the reason why they want to make sure that we have all these cheap resources down in South is because they don't want to have to pay for the labor over here. Like, that's the whole thing we were talking about, the semiconductors. If the semiconductors leave Taiwan and they have to come over here, now you can't skip on the labor. Now you got to push, you have to pay people. Same thing will happen in the global South. All that cheap labor will go away, and corporations don't want to do that because it cuts into their CEOs' profits. That's what they want to do. So we have to be able to convince people, hey, man, this is a good thing as a conservative. We got to bring some form of manufacturing back here. How about all those plants that are in Mexico, right? We close them down, we bring them home, and we pay people in Michigan or Indiana where all these plants were before. You know, before we went and we opened up NATO and we went everywhere and stuff like that. How about we start growing our own bananas? We get our own soul. Thank you, Mom. We grow our own bananas. We do our own thing. We don't rely on the resources over there, because here at the end of the day, the big problem with the United States is we don't make anything anymore. We don't fix anything anymore. We don't grow anything anymore. It's very limited. Everything we do is now outsourced. And when you got an idiot like Rokfin who's going to say, well, we need to stand up to the Chinese, fam, because they need us to sell all their products to. No, they don't. They got all new markets waiting to sell their cheap products to. All new markets in Africa and South America. They don't need us. We need them. We've put ourselves in that situation. Hey, one thing that Donald Trump said he was going to try to do was try to bring manufacturing back home. He wasn't successful at it, but he took a stab at it. And the thought process is right. Let's bring our stuff back home. Let's close our bases. Let's bring our boys home. Let's start making shit in the USA again. Let's start making things. Let's start growing fruit that ain't grown anywhere. Yeah, the labor is going to cost us a decent amount of money, so the CEOs can't make crazy profits. But this is where you get into, like, you know, the profit sharing, the co-op businesses. This is stuff we need to do, and we can do here if we can convince those people, those conservatives, that we don't even have to mess with those countries, whether they be communist or socialist. Let them make their own decisions. Let's worry about us for a change. And that's what they're duping us on, especially cockroaches like Marco Rubio.
All righty.
The next part of the clip, this is his opening statement. Remember, fam, he goes, I don't have a statement. I just have a little bit of a rant. He's ranting. Marco Rubio's ranting, everybody. Here we go.
That's the fundamental challenge that all of you are walking into. And in the context of that is how I think we need to guide our foreign policy. And so I hope we'll have a chance to talk about that today. You know, as we go through some of the countries highlighted here in today's hearing, in Uruguay, we have a president who's been trying to work with the United States on things like reducing barriers to trade. But unfortunately, because we don't have a strategic approach to that relationship, it's not a partisan attack. I think you can say that of virtually any administration in the last 30 years, because we don't have a well thought out and executed a strategic approach to the region. You have someone who basically feels like his only options for development are to cut a deal with the Chinese Communist Party, do a deal with the devil in that regard. In Suriname, you have a president who's struggling to manage more than $1 billion in Chinese debt that his predecessor took on. And we have this administration that has this single-minded focus on climate change, and therefore it doesn't seem interested in helping them develop markets and or their capabilities because it happens to be oil and gas. And in El Salvador, we have a very interesting situation. On the one hand, we've seen some of the, obviously there's been economic chaos, some of the internal political things. I'm not a big fan of everything that's been done there, but I also think it's a relationship that it's important for us to manage appropriately. And our chargé, I believe, has left post and sort of announced some strategic pause in efforts to reach out to them. So, as we talk about going there, Mr. Duncan, it's a very, very challenging situation, and one that I'd love to hear your thoughts as to what the road forward is, because I'm hoping that we can still have a relationship in El Salvador that's pragmatic. We don't have to clap or celebrate all the stuff people do that we don't necessarily think is good, but I also think we have a national interest concern there that needs to be balanced. In Trinidad and Tobago, the Prime Minister, unfortunately, continues to be a supporter of the Maduro regime and signing agreements to join the Belt and Road Initiative of the Communist Party. Nicaragua is a horrific disaster. I think it's the second.
That wasn't, we were supposed to play it all the way through, so I don't know. Because he was talking about Nicaragua. That was the most important part. No big deal, no big deal. Fam, do you have anything about to say that? Because once again, he's talking openly about the fact that these countries don't have a right to their national sovereignty. They're still propping up the Maduro regime and doing trade deals with them when we told them that's a no-no.
Yeah, can we hear the rest of that? Because that was the main point.
Yeah. Play that, fam. Yeah.
For around out of time.
No. Pause. That's a different
Nicaragua
one.
A free nation?
That's a different one. Oz, the end of the first one. That's like 10, 20 minutes later. This next clip. The end of the second one. Play it all the way through.
That's the fundamental challenge that all of you are walking into, and in the context of that is how I think we need to guide our foreign policy, and so I hope as to what the road forward is, because I'm hoping that we can still have a relationship.
I don't think so.
In El Salvador that's pragmatic.
Here.
We don't have to clap or celebrate all the stuff people do that
Put
we
it
don't
on the
necessarily
screen.
think
We're
is good, but I also think we have a national interest concern there that needs to be balanced. In Trinidad and Tobago, the Prime Minister unfortunately continues to be a supporter of the Maduro regime and signing agreements to join the Belt and Road Initiative of the Communist Party. Nicaragua is a horrific disaster. I think it's the second.
Oh, you got to cut.
Okay, so
That's the
he's gonna say it's this.
In Trinidad and Tobago.
No. Can you play it or no? It's cut?
No, it's not cut.
And just as important is this is a country where the president arrested every one of his political opponents.
There it is.
If you ran for president, you went to jail. Not even Putin arrested everybody. He at least has an official.
I wanted fam to hear that.
This is it's pretty stunning, the direction that's taken. And even more troubling is they have now rolled out the red carpet, this open invitation for both Chinese and Russian military stationing in the region. I think the Russians have their hand full right now, but you could see a presence there. But the Chinese may one day take them up on it. And that would be, if we wake up in a world where the Chinese have a military basing arrangement in our own hemisphere, it would be a very troubling turn in regional affairs, and one that I think is a threat that we can't overlook. So, all of these places we're facing some real challenges, and I'm hopeful to be able to talk about those today.
That was important. I wanted you to hear the end of that, fam, too, as well. The next clip is good, Oz. It will be when they get further into the hearing. But, fam, once again, pulling back from the national sovereignty, a way to make sure that not even Putin, fam, is as bad as Daniel Ortega. His crazy wife is there doing all these things. He jailed all his political opponents. And I had this argument when I went into that anti-socialist that panel, and they were like, he jailed all his opponents, and I was like, and you know why? And they're like, why? And I'm like, because as an opponent, you can't be taking money from NGOs like the NED, which are considered CIA light.
They weren't even opponents. It goes further. They weren't even opponents. They had literally said, we want to be president. We want to run for office. And they had started working with these NGOs to help overthrow the government, like you just said. And the Sandinistas know this very well from their history. They know, one thing I will say about Nicaraguans is they know their history very well, which is why they're not repeating the same mistakes like other countries that don't know their history. And so that whole rhetoric, that whole excuse was used by the entire Western Hemisphere. The New York Times, both liberal and conservatives, were saying the same shit. And we went, Johnny and I, we went to the magistrate and the president of the CNE, of the Supreme Electoral Council of Nicaragua, and we asked those questions. And we literally got those answers. Like, they showed us this whole handbook. They're like, they weren't real candidates. And then the people that did file to be candidates were working with NGOs to overthrow the regime, which is, ask the United States about coups and insurrections and if they're partial to them on their soil. So I mean, you know what I mean? If somebody was caught working with Russia to overthrow the United States government, literally being funded to run for office to do that, I think the United States would have a problem with it. But of course, he goes on and uses this exact talking point. And of course, again, I was laughing at the end because imagine China having military bases on our hemisphere, but we can have military bases on their hemisphere and every other hemisphere. Come on, guys.
We wake up one day, it's like the Cuban Missile Crisis. It's okay for us to do whatever we want. We can actually arm missiles on NATO, through NATO, put them on Putin's border, and yet where he's the bad guy or they're the bad guy if they want their own national sovereignty. Fam, the next part is just when there were 4 ambassadors trying to get confirmed. If confirmed, fam, I will definitely stick by your things. Here is Rubio with a little back and forth with the person who was set to be confirmed, but obviously we know what happened. We'll go into that a little bit more with one of the ambassadors that was nominated. Let's take a look. This is with the Nicaraguan ambassador.
Before I run out of time here, Mr. Rodriguez, the CAFTA is an agreement, preferential trading arrangement among free nations. Is Nicaragua a free nation? And if they're not, then should we continue to provide the preferential trade benefits that CAFTA provides to free nations? I mean, the point of it was to encourage the opposite of everything that Ortega and his crazy wife, who's the vice president, are doing.
Thank you, Senator Rubio. Let me just say, if confirmed, I would support using all economic and diplomatic tools to bring about a change in direction in Nicaragua. Removing Nicaragua from CAFTA-DR is a potentially very powerful tool and something we have to seriously consider. I know we currently exclude Nicaragua from supporting functions under CAFTA-DR, trade development capacity building activities and the like, but if confirmed, I commit to working with USTR and other agencies within the U.S. government to evaluate all possible means for bringing that pressure to bear.
Bam, all possible means sanctions, blockades, more acts of war. And when Marco Rubio says the point of the CAFTA was to make sure that, it's about human rights and not abuses and letting the free world be free, it's not. The point of it was to change their behavior to do what we want at the empire, and that is it at the end of the day. We want control of this country in our own hemisphere, and we think we have the right to control it. And everything that comes out of all these politicians' mouth, they prove it when they say it. It's our land is what it's almost as if they're saying Nicaragua is part of the United States and we have a right to do what we want if they don't behave the way we like.
That's essentially what they're saying. All diplomatic tools, as you said, I mean, this guy is supposed to be representing Nicaragua, right? So this is, of course, why, because you just heard this guy's rhetoric. He's basically saying he would do whatever the United States wants, and essentially there would be a coup of Nicaragua, because that's what it would take to have this happen. So Nicaragua withdrew their approval of this guy, Hugo Rodriguez, who was a candidate for the position of U.S. ambassador in Nicaragua. Okay. After, of course, he basically, like you just watched, committed to push for regime change. And Bob Menendez, Marco Rubio, and others went on to ask him questions, and we have a little bit more on that. But this is what Nicaragua said. Daniel Ortega, well, we got it straight from the Ministry of Exterior Relations. And they said they addressed this to Anthony Blinken because he is, the dude in charge. And they said that they took this guy out because they heard during the confirmation hearing of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, he made interventionist and disrespectful statements against our country, ignoring the principles of international law, the charter at the United Nations and the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. The government of Nicaragua, in use of its powers and its exercise of its national sovereignty, immediately withdraws the placet granted to candidate Hugo Rodriguez. We reiterate that every diplomat has the duty to contribute to respect and understanding between peoples and governments, that is, between the human community. We recall that based on the diplomacy and in compliance with the postulates of the Vienna Convention, an ambassador or candidate for ambassador cannot get involved in the national issues that are specific to Nicaragua, and much less disrespect, offend, humiliate, threaten, lead, or be a factor of interference or interventionism in the internal affairs of our country. Signed, Denise Moncada, Minister of Foreign Affairs. And you can see that. And guys, I mean, this is just, Nicaragua has the balls and the cojones and the ovaries to do what many countries don't do. They kick the OAS out. They really are pretty much kicking anybody out that is using this sort of rhetoric. So there's a couple more things here. Here's a question from Senator Bob Menendez. Notice how they do the questions, right? Nicaragua has been at risk since 2018 when the Ortega regime cracked down on peaceful protests. Peaceful protests. Do I need to tell you what the hell happened and how many people died and how people were killed and tortured in the streets, literally, and how we spoke to those people and how they lost family members, friends, how it destroyed, they almost were able to coup, but they failed this coup. And the Nicaraguans are very proud that they stopped this coup from happening. Hundreds of deaths of Nicaraguans resulting from the freaking coup plotters, not from Ortega. Since then, aggression against the opposition and civil society organizations has increased. The country is becoming a totalitarian regime. What steps would you take to avoid such a humanitarian disaster in Nicaragua? And the response was, we must mobilize countries and governments around the world to put pressure on the government of Nicaragua. So we must mobilize other countries and governments to get involved in Nicaragua, is what this guy's saying, particularly in relation to the release of the 190 political prisoners. If confirmed, I promise to work with the United Nations Human Rights Office, the OAS, Europe, and Canada to further isolate the Ortega regime. How can a person like this, how can you not kick him out into outer space?
Yeah, no, I mean, they're still going to, you can talk, if you constantly repeat the lie, it eventually becomes the truth, right? So now a lot of people who don't understand or haven't gone there, who haven't read or are privy to the independent news that we are, really think that there was a crackdown against peaceful protest in 2018. They're trying to paint this picture like people try to raise up against the Ortega government and then he ruthlessly put them down. It's a lie. We have all the receipts. It was an NED-funded coup that they tried to remove the government, right? And this is the same government. Daniel Ortega was one of 9 Sandinistas leaders. There was a big controversy. A lot of you are too young to remember this, or it was before your time, the Iran-Contra scandal, where they literally sold cocaine, took cocaine, turned it into crack, sold it to the streets of New York and California, took that money, bought weapons from Iran, to take back to the Contras to fight the Sandinistas for control of Nicaragua. It literally happened. We have all the receipts. Why are the same idiots with the same ideology try to spew their shit again? Why? How are they not being called out plainly? Like, why are you messing with Nicaragua? It's like when we mess with Iran. We have the receipts of the coups, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, so let's play Bob Menendez's video,
You're going to get pissed off at his behaviors, fam.
Mr. Rodriguez, Nicaragua has been in a state of crisis since April 18th of 2018. That was the day the anti-government protest triggered a years-long wave of repression that has killed 329 people, injured thousands, and condemned 190 political prisoners to arbitrary detention in conditions amounting to torture. The Ortega regime has no shame. They have jailed, expelled, harassed political opponents, former lawyers, business partners, representatives of the Catholic Church. They have shuttered organizations that feed and shelter Nicaraguans. They've closed 8 of the country's universities. They've attempted to withdraw from the Organization of American States, all while cozying up to Russia. They've even kicked out Mother Teresa's missionaries of charity. Nicaragua is on the path to becoming a totalitarian dictatorship. We often talk about how to respond to crises instead of investing more in prevention. Our Renacer Act, which was signed into law last year, lays out a framework for U.S. policy, but we need to act now. So if you are confirmed, what steps would you take to mobilize a robust international strategy to prevent the onset of a deeper humanitarian crisis in Nicaragua?
Thank you, Senator. If confirmed, as you point out, we really need to mobilize voices from across the region and around the world to call out the human rights abuses, to call out the undemocratic actions that the government of Daniel Ortega is taking. And we need to call for the immediate release of the 190 political prisoners that you mentioned. If confirmed, I commit to working with UN Human Rights Council, OAS, our partners in Europe and Canada, to seek their voice and their action in the form of sanctions, to join our efforts to highlight the abuses and to isolate the regime of Daniel Ortega.
Fam, I'm going to commit to stop pulling what Menendez did there. I know I do that often. Menendez probably has better more of a right to do it, but when you say certain words, you just say them in a Spanish accent. I'm going to work on not saying Nicaragua. Like, I'm going to say it like a normal white gringo would say it and stuff, but that pisses me off about the whole thing. But I like the way he was kind of also pointing at the Catholic Church, where he think he could just virtue signal and throw the word Catholic Church out there and it's holy. And even Ortega is evil against the church, fam. You know, even he's trying to signal, you know what I'm saying, to the conservative Catholics in Florida and all around the world or all around the nation that will buy this shit. The Catholic Church was the opposition. There's videos of members of the Catholic Church torturing Sandinistas in Nicaragua. So that's just bullshit. Also, the Renacer Act he kind of mentioned too again, which is an act when I remember I got all pissed off at Tulsi for not mentioning the Renacer Act because it was an evil piece of legislation. The OAS, which we know, which is a CIA light, which they are the vessel to make sure that these elections are fraudulent in the favor of the United States puppet. And for this asshole to say the undemocratic process, well, you're talking to two people who were there, Hugo, and we can tell you is a much more clean, transparent, representative, and fair process than what we have in the United States of America. Go scratch, pal.
I know. Can we get some of Nicaragua's election reform in the United States? I mean, I would be very happy. Please, just a little bit. I mean, there's not much else to say. I mean, the guys, both of them are just, you know, and of course, Menendez is one of those gusanos. He's a gusano. He's a gusano.
All we got is gusano,
know?
fams. We got nothing but gusanos. All our Latin members are gusanos in American
They
Congress.
are.
Where's AOC? Where's AOC at?
Oh God. So you guys saw that, right? You guys heard that. Okay, so let's just play the next one. And by the way, they talk about how Nicaragua is doing terrible. Nicaragua is not doing terrible. Nicaragua is improving economically. And they very food self-sufficient, efficient. They have food sovereignty. They have healthcare, and they have a mechanism to help people buy houses to where it doesn't cost them very much. And so that's why you don't really see. And Franco also went to Nicaragua, and he's like, I saw way more homeless people in the United States than I saw any in Nicaragua. And I mean, that's another person that you guys know, that's fam, and that he went, you know, with family. He didn't go like we did, but he pretty much said the same thing. Now, they always talk about how Nicaragua isn't doing well. And then the treatment of women, of course, is great in Nicaragua. They have women in positions of power, but also pay them the same. They don't just virtue signal about how they believe women and care about women. It's a whole different thing, the feminist movement there, than it is here. So question from Senator Bob Menendez. I'm I'm just going to read what it says. I think if we haven't heard it, we will. What steps would you take to guarantee the implementation of the Renaissance Act? Isn't this the one he just went over?
Yeah.
This is
We
about
just
the
have the
Renaissance
video.
Act. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. And so there's another video, right? You have
Yeah.
another video?
I do.
Okay. So let's just go ahead and play the next couple videos.
Let me follow up with something that Senator Rubio raised. Our Renaissance Act lays out congressional guidance on suspending Nicaragua from the CAFTA-DR trade agreement. And I know it's a powerful tool. The same thing with El Salvador. But we entered into these agreements with a universal concept of who we were entering into. Nicaragua certainly does not fall in that category at this point in time. What steps will you take to implement what the law says? And do you commit to keeping this committee informed on a quarterly basis on the nature of Russia's deepening cooperation with Nicaragua?
Yes, Senator, I commit to
bring in
keeping the
Russia.
committee informed. In addition, if confirmed, sir, I commit to adding my weight to the full implementation of the Renaissance Act. As I mentioned, working
Commit
with
to bending
USTR
over
and others on
at
the
all
CAFTA-DR
costs.
question, continuing to implement the act in terms of holding officials in Nicaragua accountable for the human rights abuses. We recently
motherfucker
sanctioned
wasn't gonna
another
do
23
anything.
individuals under Section 353. Thanks to the Renaissance Act, that is a new capacity that we have, and we're taking full advantage of it. Again, Senator, if confirmed, I will work with our interagency colleagues to maximize the pressure, both through Renaissance and all of the tools that the Senate.
I look forward to that. We need a strong voice.
We need a strong voice, fam. We need a
Fam.
cutthroat motherfucker who's going to do what we say. Bring these people to
I have
their
a
knees,
question.
fam. Sure.
Sam, I have a question for you. How would
Sure.
this guy do any of that? How would this guy come in and be like, all right, I'm gonna tell Ortega and every Sandinista and every loyal person that really supports Ortega, yeah, you got to follow the Renaissance Act. What gives them the audacity to think they have any jurisdiction?
Yeah, because
I mean,
it's
I'm
just
just
red
laughing.
meat. It's just red meat virtue signaling to your base of freaking anti-Cuban, anti-Nicaraguan people that are here because they are here because they couldn't stay over there because they went along with the overturning of the government. That's why they came here in the first place. That's all he's doing. He's throwing them red meat. None of this stuff is ever going to happen. Not in Nicaragua. We understand this. We know when Ortega goes Yankee, go home. He fought a revolution to do this, to be able to say this. He doesn't have military bases there. And the Russians are there because of our actions, because we pushed them to go there. Nicaragua has no choice but to make alliances with Russia and China. Why wouldn't they? When after our actions were in there just killing Sandinistas for gain. I mean, for our own needs. We did not care. This is because of what we have done, not them, what we have done. Put a dog in a corner, it's going to bite back.
And trust me, they have a good relationship with Russia, and that's not something to be lamenting over. That's a good thing for them. It's beneficial for them. It really is. It's beneficial for them to have a good relationship with China. I mean, that's just the way it is. Should it be one or the other? No, it should be an equitable world where everybody has a great relationship. That's an idealistic process. But the way the United States has worked is they bring people together against them because of their
exactly.
actions. So the more they try to say, "Ooh, this country is working with China or Russia," the more they bring these countries together. It backfires every single time.
Yeah.
In the last video, correct?
I think that was the last video. Do we have one more? Or was that the last one?
That
We have
was
one
it?
more? Is that the last one, Oz? We have one more. Let's do it.
We have an increasing challenging situation in El Salvador, one that threatens both the future of democracy in the country and bilateral relations with the United States. Over the last 2 years, President Bukele has presided over a number of alarming setbacks for democratic governance,
I'll let you handle this.
undermining judicial independence, intimidating opposition lawmakers by using security forces to occupy the legislature, negotiating political pacts with gangs, regularly attacking journalists and media outlets. And in addition to these actions, Bukele has also repeatedly used his network of Twitter trolls to attack and threatened not only government critics within El Salvador, but also United States officials, including my colleague in the House of Representatives, Congresswoman Norma Torres. It's amazing what he is
Another
doing
Gusano.
directing against a member of the United States Congress and former Ambassador Gene Mans. So I want to hear from you. Do you commit to prioritizing these issues and discussions with President Bukele and senior officials within his government?
Bukele.
Yes, Senator, I do make that commitment to you.
How's that
and I
white
must
guy
tell
gonna
you
go
that
do
I think the exchange with regarding
you
Representative
should apply to
Torres
be
was
ambassador
absolutely
of
unacceptable.
El Salvador.
And I would certainly be happy to make that clear to the Salvador.
So, fam, I had to put it in there to show to make a point over here, right? We've had friends who are very critical of Bukele, right? Bukele, I'm saying
Yeah.
right? Nayib, right? There because of he is the opposite of what Ortega is when it comes to running a country. He's even used the word he's an anti-communist of sorts. He doesn't believe in a lot of social programs. There's a lot of things that he's cut, whatnot. But they don't like him because at the end of the day, he's expressing his national sovereignty for his country to make the decisions,
Right.
telling the IMF to go scratch. And that's what it's about at the end of the day. I want to make a point here that it's not about ideology, right? It's about people or countries wanting their own national sovereignty. And I did have to put out the point, fam, where he goes, I can't believe it. Like, and this is the audacity of our Congress members to think they're just a set of elites, that he went on Twitter and he harassed one of my colleagues, fam, in the House. How oh my God, how dare he do that? Oh. And if a guy named Duncan can be an ambassador, maybe a Jardula can be. A white guy as white as me.
Yeah,
maybe
think
I
you
can be an ambassador.
Maybe, hey, Nicaragua would be better, but I mean, it'd be better if you were Nicaraguan. But maybe El Salvador will take you, fam. Bitcoin Beach will take you. Maybe they'll let you. Yeah. I mean, and
Twitter
I just
trolls.
noticed I got really mad. Fam, that there's all the Latinos in government are all Gusano motherfuckers. Sorry, but for my cursing.
Well,
but
AOC was supposed to be that voice of reason. She was supposed to be
she's
that
just
one.
a fraud.
She hasn't even opened her goddamn mouth.
Nope.
Oh, she hasn't opened up her goddamn mouth. Nothing. From a woman whose name is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, says nothing about the empire.
Got more of the.
Forget about it. It's disgusting.
Got more of the conquistador in that than anything else.
She is a conquistador.
So let's just run through this. Let's just run through this last section, and then we can do the super race.
Got it.
Just because I gotta go.
You want to hold this section till next week, or you want to do it?
No, this section needs to happen because it's pretty short. And
I'm going to let you read through it real quick. So, Oz, you can just go from article to article to article, and I'll be right back.
Okay. So, guys, this is a big deal because the United States changed the definition of COVID several times, the definition of vaccination. They changed the definition of what it means to be infected and vaccinated and how long that goes. We've seen this before. And now they're changing the definition of what a recession is, right? And Wikipedia decided to edit this and lock it so nobody else could change it. Now, this happened before, like I said. And what is inflation? Because even the AP has had to admit that inflation is happening and that this inflation that is happening and the drastic increase in gas prices and food prices, the food shortages, and everything that's going on around them, the increase in interest rates, all of that is leading to a recession. Every single major economist has talked about it. Economists that believe in capitalism, all of that, they've all been talking about this, right? And so inflation and wage data suggests that US prices will keep climbing. So this isn't going to stop. This is from today, I believe. And the AP says inflation surged in June and workers' average wages accelerated in the spring. These are signs that Americans won't likely feel any relief from rising prices anytime soon, and that the Federal Reserve will feel compelled to further raise borrowing costs. And this was closely tracked by the Fed, which said that the inflation gauge jumped 6.8% in June from a year ago. And that's the biggest jump in 4 decades. So that's a 40-year record high inflation. I interviewed a guy named Mitch Firestein today who had some things to say, and he was really good on stuff. He talked about the World Economic Forum, the globalist agenda. He talked about how inflation has been happening for a while. It's not just the highest inflation in 40 years. He said it was the highest inflation ever. And he says that we need to, we cannot solve this problem with the same people that created the crisis, because he talked about how Janet Yellen has been lying and changing her tune, and she's been wrong about every single thing. And prices also surged 1% in June. This is the biggest rise since 2005. Even excluding the volatile food and energy categories, prices climbed 0.6 from May to June. Employees' wages, excluding government workers, jumped in April through June about 1.6%. But again, if the inflation is getting higher, then the wages, of course, are going to as well. And so it's that really offsets a lot of what they're talking about, right? Because you can, it's the same thing I say with why I don't believe a minimum wage is acceptable anymore. Because people are like, well, we need a $30 minimum wage. Okay, let's give you a $30 minimum wage, and tomorrow they just raise the prices on everything, because that's what's happening. And of course, I didn't put it in here, but the Democrats are pushing another bill, and the Republicans are complaining about this bill, and there's this back and forth that it's going to increase inflation more and blah, blah, blah. The point is, I'm not for that bill because it's not going to do anything for any of us. Not because, I'm pro-Republican. It's just like these people aren't going to do anything for anybody. And so if you go to the whitehouse.gov and you click on their little what is a recession thing, this is what it says. What is a recession? Well, some maintain that 2 consecutive quarters, that's the old definition, 2 consecutive quarters of failing real GDP constitute a recession. That is neither the official definition nor the way economists evaluate the state of a business cycle. Instead, both official determinations of recessions and economists' assessment of economic activity are based on a holistic look at the data, including the labor market, consumer and business spending, industrial production, and incomes. Based on these data, it is unlikely that a decline in GDP in the first quarter of this year, even if followed by another GDP decline in the second quarter, indicates a recession. So they're saying it doesn't indicate a recession. The Biden administration is in denial. They don't agree that this is a recession. And they
even
went
if followed, fam, by another GDP decline, it's still not our fault. It's still not even a recession.
And fam, they went as far as changing this. If you can see here, the scratched out part is what it was on July 28th. You can see how they keep revising. There's been several edits, but this is one edit that took place in 2 minutes, right? So this is what they edited. While it used to be, while national definitions vary 2 consecutive quarters of a decline, country's real gross domestic product, there is commonly no used global consensus. And on practical, the definition of a recession, blah, blah, blah. So they took that out. So they edited it and said there is no global consensus on definition of recession. So they took the rest of it out. And now it says there is no global concession on the definition of a recession. So they keep editing the Wikipedia to suit whatever the government's new definition of recession is.
Fam,
and
is
they
it
did this,
surprising,
fam,
though?
with COVID. No,
exactly.
they did it with COVID.
Exactly.
So it's not surprising at all. And again, I want people to, I always go back to this point, Pasta, because I get so mad at the left. If they fucking redefine recession, if they redefine whatever they need to redefine to make a political point, what makes you think that they're not going to redefine whatever is considered a pandemic, whatever is considered a vaccine, whatever is considered XYZ?
A virus.
To fit their political narrative. A virus. I mean, they've done it so many times.
Yeah. They did those 3 things, the pandemic, virus, vaccine. They just changed the definition to better suit what they were trying to do and what their narrative to push it out there. They're doing the same thing right now as well. They're changing what it is to be a recession I just keep thinking, fam, like there has to be, if there is a group of space aliens sitting on, hanging on the moon, just on a bleacher watching us, they're going to be like, I don't know if we should let these people live. I mean, they're that stupid that they're letting these people pull the wool over their eyes. Now they're actually just changing the definition of stuff. They have all the evidence that they're changing the definition of everything. I don't know. It's depressing. It's depressing.
It's very depressing. And then, of course, Zelensky says inflation is nothing after he just got done with his photo shoot with his wife. Yeah, Americans, Europeans that are going to freeze their ass off this winter. Inflation is nothing. You're fine. Just
by the way,
give us more money.
If you looked in the top right-hand corner of that Zelensky thing, could you put it up there again too as well? Because I just want to prove to everybody, because the show is on Fox, is a Fox News guy. Piers Morgan is a Russia-gating piece of garbage that is pushing the Ukraine war and that Putin is bad. So just want to show you guys that it exists on the right as well.
Oh yeah, totally.
This ain't just about a left-wing thing.
No, they're not. They're liberals. So
what's the next?
Okay,
what's the next clip you got, Oz? If you have it, play it.
Just play it.
First Lady, is it true that he didn't tell you that he was going to run for president?
Say it true. Say it true.
He forgot.
You forgot? You forgot to tell your wife you're running for president?
Each day he was thinking, that is the day, that is the moment I should tell her, you know. I saw his New Year's address and found out he was actually running.
Wait a minute, you found out on TV? Really?
He was going to
Mr.
run.
President,
Oh my God, this guy's such a fucking narcissistic little fucking goon.
this is your opportunity to apologize to your wife.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh my God. He's
Literally,
such an
people
actor.
are getting bombed. They're getting killed. They're getting blown up. Ukrainians are being used as pawns on a daily basis. At the end of the day, the people who suffer most are the Ukrainians. And Piers Morgan wants to go and play footsie with Zelensky. It's disgusting. I got to control myself from saying things I want to say. The treatment that these people deserve, from everybody from Pelosi to Menendez to Piers Morgan to everybody who was a part of this scam.
The wall. They deserve the wall.
Oh my God. Now, this was early in the week, fam, really quick. This is Sugar Bear, as Steve likes to refer to her, our lovely press secretary.
Karine Jean-Pierre.
I hope she gets fired over the weekend, because then I'll win 8.5-1. I bet that she would be fired by August 1st. Here she is. Listen to her trying to bullshit her way out of the definition of recession.
And what is exactly the White House's definition of a recession?
Again, I'm not going to define it from here. I'm just going to leave it to the NBER, as we have stated, and how they define recession.
Okay, so you won't declare it one until they have declared it one.
I'm just saying that we're just not going to define it. We use the indicators that the NBER, the National Bureau of Economic Research, have used. We've mentioned that a few times.
And what is exactly
There's also another clip out there.
of
There's another clip out there. She goes, when somebody says, it says, well, it's defined as 2 negative quarters back to back. And she goes, that's not the definition. She's quick to jump and say, that's not the definition. That's not what your party's been saying for years. When Bill Clinton was talking about, when he was running, he was talking about the recession that we were going through and that he could fix everything. So here is Billy Boy back in the day on C-SPAN opening his mouth. Thank you, Bill Clinton.
Mr. President, what do you think about a recession?
Well, a recession is 2 quarters in a row of negative growth. I don't think we're going to have that. But we couldn't keep up 5% growth a year, forever. So I think 49 of the 50 blue chip forecasters think that growth will be 2.5% or better next year. We'll keep unemployment low. But I think there'll be things to be managed. He'll have economic challenges, and you ought to give him a chance to meet them. If not, try to figure it all out in advance.
What was it defined of 2 negative quarters back to back? And I don't think that's going to happen now. the White House, the Democrats, they're denying it in every step of the way. Oh, no, that's not what it is because it's happening under my term, our term. So that's not what it is, fam. It's something else.
Oh, yeah. No, it's you guys, it's a Mandela effect. You're not remembering correctly. That's not.
It's your fault.
It was never that. Yes, you're just
plebs.
I mean, guys, this is the ridiculousness, but that's that section, guys. We live in not just a cartoon. We live in just hell, the dumb timeline, the dumbest timeline.
That is something that Steve
Thank you for
said.
sticking with us.
You might not be in the worst times where you're, have to do hard labor as a child, but you were definitely born. This is him talking to his children. You were definitely born in the dumbest of all times. And I feel bad about that. Leonard Trust Fund, thank you for the Super Ray contribution, guys. We have 35 thumbs up, 1 thumbs down. We want to welcome our troll in on Friday. Happy Casual Friday. Do us a favor, guys. If you're in the chat, hit the like button, hit the thumbs up, hit the share button. And I want to thank all the people who are in the YouTube on Friday. We know you can be out playing in the sun, but instead you're here with the Convo Couch, and we love you for that. Leonard Trust Fund, thank you for the Super Ray contribution. Sorry, all we can do is watch the little news clip from the RT.com channel. We can access via regular here. And I watched you this morning, Fee, at the news desk in your gray shirt. I was cheering the whole time and listening. LOL, I'm so proud of you. Love you too, Pasta. You'll cry about getting left out. I wouldn't cry about getting left out, Leonard Trust Fund. Thank you so much. You are an amazing woman. I do appreciate it. It was great to hear your voice when you called in the morning show that day. We're going to try to get our phone lines back up so we can do that. And I like to do that on the Convo Couch, so maybe we could talk to some of our fans. And I want to say, yes, absolutely. Fee is definitely killing it. I think it's kind of awesome seeing her in RT, especially since I was such a crazy, just everyday RT watcher, and seeing Fee in that zone, doing that, very calm, very confident, just delivering it. And I like the fact they are also were there. I think there's like a little piggybacking off each other. When we played the video on Monday talking about Woosley and him talking about, we did it with Greece and Italy in the 40s and whatnot. To go on RT that night and see the actual story behind the Greece and Italy story, I thought it was amazing. And I love the synchronicity between the two. And yes, Fee, I am major proud of you. And I think it's awesome that you're doing that. My mom is really pissed off that RT is off DirecTV and she can't watch it every day, but I'm going to show how to get it on Rumble so she can watch it. You are definitely slaying it. OTR Trucker, thank you for the Super Ray contribution. Happy Convo Day, everybody. Yes, every day is a Convo Day because you guys make it happen. You make it work for us. I want to thank all our Patreons once again, all the people who have subscribed to this channel on Rokfin. This is our free speech platform. We are working on getting our Rumble up, fam. And also, too, we have to look into Sovereign, which is Ben Swan's blockchain platform that will be live streaming in less than 2 months. We're going to take a look in that, too, as well. Or anywhere we can go and put up our platform and make a few bucks to get us our boots on the ground and cover the stories that you guys empower us to cover. So thank you all for all that, for doing that. Thank you to Oz and Roar Media. Oz, what do you got coming up over the weekend? Very important that you talk about it.
No, we're just going to have an explanation for the stream that we had the other night on Tuesday. There was some misunderstandings, and it's understandable, but we're going to give our side of it in how we don't do Twitter text inquisitions, but we are going to offer our explanation and our position. And if there's apologies to be made, they will be made, and I hope they're made by the individuals, including us, if they are necessary. Thanks, everybody.
What was the topic, Oz?
It was healthcare in general, and we were trying to promote the March for Medicare for All walk, and it got sidetracked a little bit. So I understand how some of it could be taken, but we'll see. We're going to run the entire clip. And Shanda and I are going to go through it point by point by point to see where we were wrong, possibly, and where our detractors are definitely wrong. So anyway, no hard feelings, anybody, but we are making a big change next week. We'll announce that Saturday night. And I want to thank everybody for supporting the couch and all of our sisters and brothers in independent media, no matter where you are and who you are. Thanks again.
So that's
right.
pretty cool.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think a national conversation from the left or what was the left is needed when it comes to Medicare for all, fam. So that's something we can pay attention to because a lot of people have different opinions about it. And I think it's important we have these conversations down the road. So we will see you back on Monday. We have the morning show, of course, AM Wake Up. Come check it out. You can get your Rumble or your Odyssey going. Check out Fee on RT. She has been slaying it. And of course, we'll be back Monday afternoon on the CONVO couch, and we'll have a lot of great stuff to report. We are amping up our Give, Send, Go, givesendgo.com/support the CONVO couch. We will be revving it up, fam. I have a phone call in already. Wait, the phone call was too late. I have to get on it right now. And I have to talk about actually Brazil. We're going to talk about our trip to Brazil. So we're going to be amping that up and getting that ready, guys. So go to givesendgo.com/support the CONVO couch. That's it for the weekend. Have a great one. I am Pasta Jardula.
I am Fiorella. I'll see you on RT.
She'll see you on Oz, on RT. And Oz, beautiful man on the ones and twos, everybody.
CONVO out.
Oh, you did it on cue.